right, guys, we are back. Good evening, good morning, or good afternoon. As always, it is so great to see you guys here. One of the reasons why I sold my Nikon Z7 and bought a Canon EOS R, and well, now of course the R5, is the RF lineup of lenses. Now, don't get me wrong, Nikon has some really excellent Z series lenses, but Canon has really outdone itself with the RF lenses they have been pumping out over the last couple of years. Now, in today's video, I'm going to give you the first look at my latest addition to the RF lens goodie bag, which is the 100, 500, 4.5 to 7.1. But before we get into that, I do want to thank you for tuning in. Guys, we really appreciate you supporting this channel and are really happy to have that ability to sit down with you a few times during the week to discuss content like this. Now, if you have already subscribed to the channel, thanks. If you haven't, guys, please take a moment in doing so. It is the quickest and the easiest way that you can support the channel. Plus, you also need to subscribe to be eligible for our monthly giveaways that we have every single month. We have some really excellent prizes each month, including some really awesome camera bags that we're giving away this month with the giveaway. More details on that a little bit later. But for now, pull up a seat and let's go. Let's kick things off by going over a few major specs of this bad boy. First off, this lens is stabilized. So the lens stabilization works with IBIS in your R5 or your R6, and it's going to give you up to 6 stops of stabilization. Next, this lens has a customizable control ring right near the base of the lens. There's also a manual focus ring, as you can see right here, for that is silky smooth. And then of course you have this one right here. This is a twistable clutch to stiffen the zoom or loosen it, and then of course at the end you have the zoom ring at the end of the lens. It has 20 elements in 14 groups. It also has a dust and weather resistant fluorine coating on the outer element and uses a 77mm filter. Minimum focus distance is 2.95 feet at 100 millimeters. Once you move this up to 300 millimeters, okay, that distance then goes to 3.28 feet, and then of course at 500 millimeters, it's 3.94 feet for minimum focusing distance. The tripod foot has a locking mechanism that enables you, by just simply twisting this out here, to rotate the lens and the camera as it's sitting or as it's mounted on top of the tripod. This is super handy. Now, this lens does come with a big lens hood. And one of the things that I really like about these lenses, the 7200 has the same thing as well. This little sliding window here, which is great. So when you have like a polarized filter in there, you can still access or spin the thing around without having to take off the lens hood. Now, this lens only weighs about 3 pounds without the tripod mount. Now, despite having 100mm extra reach, guys, this lens is actually lighter than the EF 100-400 lens. It is actually surprisingly light when you pick it up, but more on that in a bit. Now, the length of this without the hood is 3.69 inches by 8.17 inches. And of course, when you fully zoom this out, you're still at the 3.69, but it extends out to 11.71 inches when it's fully zoomed out. Now, I think the most impressive feature so far about this lens is the focal length itself. Guys, at 100 millimeters, you can do so much with this, from portraits, landscapes, architecture, you name it. But with the twist of the lens, okay, now you get a huge 500mm reach. And guys, this is ideal for bird, wildlife, photography, sports, not to mention to bring pulling those distant landscapes closer to you. Now, would this be the one zoom lens that I carry in my bag? No, probably not. I'm really partial to the R1535, but that's because I mostly shoot landscapes, and wide-angle view is, well, that's what I use most of the time. Now, nevertheless, the versatility of this lens is unmistakable. It is you can't beat this lens. It is absolutely fantastic. And maybe you could beat it, but anyways, you get the point where I'm leading with this. Now, while I was at Lake Kushima last weekend, guys, I found this lens to be all that I needed for portraits of my son, shooting landscapes and everything in between. Matter of fact, while out there, I think I mentioned this in the last video. My EOS R, I had the 2870 on it probably about 95% of the time. The EOS R This is the only lens that I was using during the entire 4 days that was out there because I really wanted to spend some time with this lens, and guys, it did not disappoint. You want to hear something funny though? While out there tooling around with this lens, I realized that this is the longest focal length lens that I've ever owned. Now, back in the day, I had a Nikon 300 2.8, and it was a fantastic lens. But the problem I had with this lens was its size. That thing tipped the scale at over 6 pounds. It was a heavy beast. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this lens right here is about 3 pounds with the tripod mount. Plus, it's much smaller than the Nikon 300mm. I can actually fit other things in my camera bag with this lens in there. But with the 300, Jesus, that would take up pretty damn close to the whole bag itself. Now, the size and the weight of that 300mm lens meant that I hardly ever used it. I mean, not an exaggeration. I owned that thing for about 8 months. In the first month, I went out there and I used it quite a bit, but then I got tired of carrying it around, so it pretty much sat home most of the time. And you know, frankly, after about 8 months, and really the last 5 months, if I used it a couple times, I think that might be exaggerating by a time or so. But anyways, I ended up selling the lens because I just simply was not using it. Now, I don't think that will happen with this lens. I mean, it's lightweight for its size. Again, 100 to 500. It's lightweight, and when you reverse the hood on there, this thing doesn't take up much more space than my 70 to 200 does in my camera bag. Now, keep in mind that this is my first impression of this lens. Even though I've used it for over a long weekend, and technically coming on to a week now, I haven't really shot an enormous number of photos with this lens yet, but the ones that I have taken, guys, I can tell you right now are really impressive from a color standpoint, detail standpoint, sharpness standpoint. The lens really does deliver. This lens also produces beautiful bokeh, so all of you portrait and wildlife folks out there, you're gonna be happy to hear that this thing really is kicking ass there as well. You're also gonna find that distortion and vignetting are pretty minimal as well. So right now, out of the camera, the images taken with this lens are really pretty impressive. Now let's address the elephant in the room here. One of the things that people don't like about this lens is the aperture. At 4.5 to 7.1, it's not the fastest lens on the block, but it doesn't need to be. You aren't going to be taking this lens inside an auditorium for your kids' school play. Maybe you will, but you know, it wouldn't be the first lens that I would grab. And you won't be using it to shoot videos in a dimly lit street at night. Really, where this lens shines, it's a daytime shooting outdoor sort of lens. And that being the case, having a maximum aperture of 4.5 to 7.5 is, or 7.1 rather, that's just fine. Besides, worst comes to worst, and you need to brighten up the shot or to achieve a faster shutter speed, hell, you can just bump up the ISO on your R5 or your R6 without worrying about introducing much noise. Now, furthermore, guys, you can, at 350, okay, at 350, you're going to be at 5.6 or f5.6. Now, once you do extend past that 400 millimeters right here, it's going to step down to 7 or f7.1, but that's only a 2/3 of a stop. So again, from my point of view, the aperture range just isn't something to fuss about. Now, if you ever shot with the RF 70 to 200, let's put these together here. Actually, I'm going to, let's get all of this. Okay, so it's like mini-me here. Okay, so you'll find that the 100-500 is quite familiar because, I mean, look at these. These things, from the build standpoint, look very, very similar. These lenses also have a lot of the same technology as well. Both of these have the UD lens elements, which also help correct chromatic aberrations. Now, both lenses also have Super UD lens elements, which also vastly improves the optical performance of the lens. Image quality is also improved in both lenses by air spare coating. Now, this coating improves the contrast and sharpness while also preventing flare and ghosting. Now, yet another similarity is that both of these lenses have 2 nano USM motors. Now, this is important because both of these motors enable these lenses to have incredible fast and accurate autofocus response, especially when the lens is paired with a R5 or an R6. These USM motors are also seriously super quiet. You're not going to worry about scaring off any wildlife when you're taking photos of animals using this thing. Now again guys, I've only had the 100-500 lens for about a week now, so I fully haven't tested its autofocus capabilities, but I have tested the heck out of the 70-200 through extensive testing, and guys, the autofocus is absolutely killer with this one here. I also expect that the 100-500 is going to have that same killer autofocus performance as I take a deeper dive into testing it, particularly when using this lens with the R5's intelligent tracking for animals, birds, and people. But with that said, I will say that the first impression of the autofocus on this lens is really good. Now, I've talked in the past about the quality of the RF 70-200 lens and what an epic lens this really is. The instant you pick this up, you're like, wow, this thing is really well made. And guys, I got the same feeling when I picked up the 100-500, so at least initially it seems like the 100-500 is going to be as equally as epic as the 70-200. Now some people also will complain about the price of this lens, which is a cool $26.99. However, as I said many times before, this isn't a lens that is aimed at a part-time beginner photographer. This is a L series lens with excellent build quality and features designed for serious amateur and professional photographers. So for example, if you're a pro sports photographer, $26.99 is nothing compared to the money that you're going to make potentially off this lens. So while $26.99 is a lot of money for a lot of people, it's not a price tag that will make a lot of professional photographers gasp with shock. Now of course I'm going to have a more extensive review of this lens in the near future, but for now I feel comfortable in saying that my first impressions are nothing but good vibes with this thing. Now, of course, with our quick tour of the 100-500 done out of the way, I want to quickly go over the details of our new giveaway. Here are the prizes that we have this time. A f-stop Dalston backpack, we have a Wander Dual day pack, and of course, the $100 Adorama gift card. Now, entering the giveaway is really simple. Step 1, like this video and subscribe to our channel. Step 2, leave a comment below. In fact, the more of our videos that you watch and leave a comment on, the more chances that you have to win. So get watching some of our other videos and leave some comments. Step 3, register on PhotographyTalk and introduce yourself in the forum. Now, if you registered on the site during one of our last giveaways, you're still eligible to win at this time. But as I keep saying, swing on by, say hello, we would love to see you. That's it. For complete details on the giveaway, including how to register on PhotographyTalk and how to introduce yourself in the forum, check out the description below. Good luck. Well, there you go, guys. That is first impression of the 100-500mm new addition to my camera bag that I will definitely be spending a lot more time in the future. If you found some value, if you were entertained with this video, do me a favor, do all that YouTube stuff right now. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell to be notified each time that we come out with a new video. With that out of the way, my friend, I'm going to jump on out of here. You get out there, stay healthy, and create your best shot.